So we're now recording. If you would not like your image being recorded, please turn off your camera at this time. Jumping right into things here, we have public comments at 7:05, just now 7:08. Does anyone have public comment they would like to share? Great, love it. Okay, so moving right on. Welcome to our guest, Cindy Kohler. Cindy, I recognize your name from all of the wonderful emails that we received from you. I think I also recognize your name from my my other hat I wear with my work life. And welcome. And I see you are here at the Office of Equity and Community Engagement Neighborhoods Program. And I suppose this is where I tell you to take it away.
Well, I see a couple of familiar faces. I've worked with Jen recently and Anand. It's good to see you. It's been a very long time. So great to see. It's great to see everybody. So I was invited to come and speak and talk about the neighborhood's budget. So we've got a few new folks on the board, it looks like. So I'm really wanted to come here and answer some of your questions, and I've got some information that I can share. Can I go ahead and share the screen? I think it'll let me, maybe.
Sure.
There. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Yay. I'm Zoom is not I'm not the best. We'll just go with that. But I try. So the neighborhoods, our program receives $135,000 every year that's allocated through the budget process, where the budget committee and mayor and council get together and they discuss the budget and how they're going to prioritize the funding that's available. And we have fairly consistently for the last, well, since about 2012, received $135,000. That is just for the neighborhood associations. And it's specific for outreach and support for events. So it's not staff time. It's not for anything other than really for for the neighborhoods. And we got to this amount because back in, remember the last recession, 2010, we, the neighborhoods traditionally don't spend all of their budget. So each year we wind up with between $30,000 and $40,000 that goes back into the reserve for encumbrance, or reserve for revenue shortfall, or the savings account essentially. So the city, and we were pretty tightly squeezed back in 2010. So the budget committee took a look at that $30,000 and $40,000 and said, well, if the neighborhoods aren't using it, we want to incorporate that back into some other programs that we have. But the neighborhoods got together and said, we do want that. We do use that. We need to find a better way to support the active neighborhood associations, because it was really the inactive neighborhood associations that were not spending the money. So we had a core group of neighborhoods that got together and we started talking about how can we make this more equitable. So this is how we came up with it. So we've got, the big bucket, we've got the $135,000 in the bucket, and we want to take 10% off, and that goes to support the neighborhoods that are not active, because the neighborhoods that are not active don't receive any funding. So we peel that off, and then what's left, we take half of that and distribute that equitably among the active neighborhood associations. And it's based on the address count. So one of the questions that I'd received earlier was how much money does each neighborhood association get, and what's that based on? Well, it's based on the address count. So Whitaker has, look, I wrote that down. Actually, I can go right here. Here's how it looks. Whitaker has 2604 addresses. Now that's residents and businesses, and that's after we take out all the duplicates. So for example, Sweet Life, they have, for whatever reason, they have 4 addresses. It's all the same address, but they have 4 addresses, 4 lots. So we whittled it down so they just have one. So we take that and we budget that out based on the address count. So this is, I don't have all of my numbers in yet, but I'm guessing that the Whitaker Council will have just over $2,000 for this first trimester. I'm gonna go back to the bucket example. So we take half of the original bucket and it goes to the neighborhood associations based on their address account, on their address count. And then on the second allocation comes on November 1st, and we take whatever remaining funds that are left and we put it into the rest with the 25% of the remaining funds of from the big bucket. Is this making sense? It's kind of, I tried to make it as clear as possible, but sometimes it's as clear as mud. So we try to use all the funds that are available. Anything that wasn't spent in that first trimester gets shuffled to the second trimester along with 25% of the funds. And then we do that whole shuffle again on March 1st with the last of the 25% of the main bucket and whatever funds are not, that were not used in the second allocation. And that's to try to use up all the funds that we have. And the neighborhoods have come through. They've done a really good job of using up those funds. So those funds can be used. We've got our policies. Those funds can be used for publications, including newsletters, postcards, flyers, surveys, door hangers, banners. What other things? Some of the neighborhoods do signs, like yard signs saying, hey, we've got a neighborhood meeting tonight. Those can be used for those. And then $400 can be used to support a neighborhood event. So that's in a nutshell what those funds can be used for. There's a little bit of latitude with websites, support for websites, and support for drafting the newsletters. So if anybody has any questions on that, I can answer some of those. Yes, Jennifer.
Yes, okay, so you go by the address count.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I received address count from LCOG.
Yep.
The residences, property owners, there's 2607.
Mhm.
And for businesses, there's 433 different addresses. So that kind of doesn't make sense to me. I'm wondering why that doesn't add up, because that's more money that could be allocated to us. And that's one question. And how is that, why does that difference occur?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I would imagine LCOG, it's Lane Council of Governments. LCOG, that's who we order our address count from. So when I order the address from LCOG, I order everything within the boundary, the Whitaker Community Council boundary, and I have all duplicates removed.
Okay, so
All addresses, businesses, nonprofits, residents. So I'm not sure exactly how.
I got a separate count. I got separate one for residences or property owners, and then
Oh,
business.
that's right.
And so there's that difference that.
Yeah. So you
And
got
they-
property owners as well, right?
Correct.
So
And
we don't mail to the property owners. It's just within the boundary. So it's those.
within the property owner within the boundaries.
It-
Excuse me, businesses within the boundaries.
Mhm.
Not property owners. That's different because they could live. They could live outside of Whitaker. And is that the same as Ward 7 with us in particular?
The neighborhood boundary isn't tied to the wards. They're separate.
But with Whitaker in particular, is it the same as the neighborhood association? Because some other neighborhood associations in their ward, they have 2 or 3 different neighborhood associations, but we're not one of those.
Yeah.
So we only have one, and we take in all of Ward 7.
Mhm.
And would you agree with that?
What's the question? I don't.
That we are in Whitaker Association, we are Ward 7. We don't have separate, because we don't have a population that makes us go into a second neighborhood association like maybe Cal Young or, and I don't know, the others areas that do they have to separate because they have more population?
Well, we don't, the wards are separate from the neighborhood associations. Those boundaries are established totally differently. So I don't,
Understand, but with Whitaker, this is where I'm having a difficulty. With Whitaker, we don't have that separation. We have just Whitaker in Ward 7, and we have X amount of residences, as opposed to other neighborhood associations or other wards that have make NHAs maybe 2 or 3, which is a different statement. Am I making myself clear?
I guess I'm unclear as to what information you're seeking.
To find out if in fact, because we don't have but one neighborhood association within Whitaker, which is in Ward 7, we're going to use all the addresses to identify us so that we are allocated accordingly.
All right, so the ward doesn't have any bearing on the funding, or the address count is only for all addresses that are listed within the boundary of the neighborhood association. So even if for like Active Bethel, they have 3 different wards that are in 3 different councilors, city council members from different wards that represent the folks in Active Bethel. So that that doesn't have any bearing how many council members they have or how many wards are
Oh,
in the neighborhood doesn't have bearing.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused because the numbers still don't add up to me. If we have 2,600 residences or proper addresses plus 433 business addresses,
Right.
that's more than the 2,604 that you mentioned.
I'd be curious to know what it was that you requested, and did they remove the duplicates?
Now that's what I can't address you because I asked him, I called, maps, and I spoke with someone named Kyle Overstack.
Oh, yep.
And he gave me the separate different addresses, and I explained to him what I was looking for.
Oh, good. Okay.
So
He's
that's
who I
where,
get mine from.
that's where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
from his input. So I feel like we're not being allocated completely.
Well, I'm not sure what the list is that you received. If it included just addresses within the Whitaker and all duplicates removed, our numbers should be the same.
I didn't ask for duplicates removed. I have to say that.
Yeah. And if it included property owners, that would skew the
No,
numbers.
it includes business owners and residences. So property owners are a whole different section
Right.
that
Yeah.
they don't have to live here to own property.
Right.
So maybe you and I should talk through that.
Yeah, we certainly can. Yeah,
Thank you.
you bet.
And what is the amount that we get for address?
It varies each year, actually each trimester, it varies. So it depends on the number of active neighborhood associations. So if we had every single neighborhood active, then the allocation per address would go down. We haven't had that in several years. Right now we have West University is inactive, Train Song is inactive. Far West is becoming active, so they will be counted in the active neighborhood association count. And which one else?
There's 3 of them.
What's that?
I think there's 3 of them.
There's actually
4, huh?
4
1, 2, 3,
because
4.
the 2 industrial neighborhoods, we don't count. They don't have a large enough resident population to register and be eligible for the funding. So the industrial corridor and the West Eugene Community Organization, they don't receive funding from us.
The Train Song, West Eugene, and West University neighbors are
Right.
inactive.
West Eugene, because they're largely industrial, they've never received funding from us. So
And so Far West neighbors is also, so there's 4.
Far West is now considered active. They are getting a board together. They're having their first event. So we will add them into the allocation for this first trimester. and see if they can take flight. And if they cannot, then we will remove them from the rolls, and that'll change the allocation for the second trimester.
And who gets the most allocations? Can you say that?
Oh yeah, Active Bethel, because they're the largest. They have 12,000, more than 12,000 addresses. So if right now, my estimate is that each address will receive about 78 cents for the first trimester. So if you've got 2,100 addresses, you wouldn't get the same amount as Active Bethel with their 12,000 addresses.
Okay, didn't mean to interrupt, but
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great question.
so, and it's not decided, so they get 78%, 78 cents.
Mhm.
And how much does Whitaker get?
78 cents per address.
Oh, okay, the same.
Yeah, everybody gets the same. Yeah, everybody gets the same.
Okay, they just have a larger population.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. So another question that was asked was, how were the boundaries identified or created? So now we're going to go. Did anybody have any questions on the buckets sheet and how the funding?
No, you did great on that one.
Thank you. And I can email this spreadsheet or this document out to anybody if anybody wants it. So easy to do. So the boundaries, the neighborhood boundaries, neighborhood associations have been around since 1976. The neighborhood organization recognition policy was drafted back in 1976, and Laurel Hill Valley Citizens was our first formally established neighborhood association. So, kudos to them. They got us going. So the thought was, the goal really for the neighborhood associations is to form a partnership between the city and the community to share information, to provide some support, mutual support, and to make Eugene, the best, most inclusive, strongest community we possibly can. And thanks to our neighborhood associations, I think we do a pretty good job of that. So and that's, you guys are all volunteers. I mean, I get paid for the time that I spend on this. You guys are all volunteers. So you guys are really doing the heavy lift. So I really appreciate that. And I know the city really appreciates that. So the neighborhood boundaries, the city took a look at the natural and the established barriers, if you will, in the community. So things like Beltline, West 11th Avenue, let's see what it was. I think the Ridgeline Trail is part of one because it kind of splits in the middle, but this is going back to before it was what it is today. The city took a look at just some of the landmarks and the roads that we have and tried to design the neighborhood associations to the best of their ability. And like we're going back to 1976, right? So Active Bethel was a little tiny itsy bitsy blip in West Eugene, just west of Beltline. And it was a lot of cornfields. Everything north of Beltline in North Eugene, Northeast Neighbors, all cornfields. And of course, none of it's all nice, housing population all throughout that whole area now. So Active Bethel has grown and grown and grown as we've extended out the urban growth boundary. Some of those neighborhoods, Northeast Neighbors continues to extend out. We've got Active Bethel that continues to extend out. And then we've got our little pockets in River Road and Santa Clara. So it's at both of those, if you look at the neighborhood map, those are really pockmarked. So, and surprisingly, Santa Clara, which is further out, has a greater percentage of homes that are in the city limits than River Road does. And River Road is closer to town. So River Road has about 38% of their population is incorporated. And Santa Clara has about 48% that is populated. That's in the city limits. So it's kind of curious how that came about. But again, that's how the boundaries were made. Somebody looked at a map and said, this piece right here carved out looks like a good boundary. And then over time, things have grown. So that's kind of how that works. Yeah, yes.
Cindy, thank you so much for being here. It's been a long time. Thanks for all this information. I'm curious, on the River Road area, how do they handle the properties that have both city and non-city? So for example, my sister lives on Copping Street.
Mhm.
If she has to call EPD, they literally ask her, are they on the riverside or are they in her front yard? If they're in her front yard on the street side, they have to send sheriffs. If they're in her backyard, they have to send EPD. So how is that handled in a neighborhood association?
Isn't that the weirdest thing ever?
Ridiculous.
I know. I hear you. Yeah. So similarly, how about that? So we have the limited recognition policy with both River Road and Santa Clara. And city funds can be used to support publications that are mailed to homes and businesses that are within city limits. And then we had, if you've been around for a while, you might remember 25 maybe years ago, when the city installed the sewer lines out River Road, Santa Clara. Remember that? It's a couple head nod. And the bulldog posters came out, and Well, the city and of course DEQ wanted to eliminate all those septic tanks. That was, that's not good for the environment. So they wanted to connect all those homes to the city sewer, and the city went ahead and did that. I think that was before my time. I think they did it under like an eminent domain kind of a thing. And the neighborhoods got together and said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We're in the county. You can't do this to us. Our bulldogs are coming out. And the city said, well, let's figure out a way to make this work, because you guys want to do what's right for the environment. We want to do what's right for the environment. Let's figure out a way to make this work. So the city set aside some funding to support the neighborhoods. It was back then it was $120,000 to support the neighborhood associations in their work with the county, to support those who are in the county. So over the last 25 years, the neighborhood associations have been kind of nibbling away at those funds to support their events, to support their postcards, to support their newsletters, and to support some of the activities of the neighborhood association. Now we've come to a place where last year, that funding, they've done a really good job of being frugal and efficient using those funds, but those funds are gone. So they met with the budget committee. I think Dawn Leslie was on the budget committee, and she actually helped them get before the budget committee and ask for this. They requested funding to support both River Road and Santa Clara on their unincorporated addresses. And they got $22,000, I think, from the county. And we're hoping to make this an ongoing thing where they get funding each year to help support the work of the neighborhood association. So that from the county, and certainly I'm grateful that they're getting that. But the rule, essentially, city funds can't be used to support non-city entities, I guess. So, if you live in the city, you're paying taxes to the city, those are your funds, and they go to support you. If you live in the county, city funds can't be used unless it's a special project or special consideration. So does that answer your question, Thea? It's a weird thing. Good.
I'm eating dinner at this time, so that's guys.
Sounds like a boy. Jen, is your hand up, or is it?
It is, you're saying, is that John Belcher?
Johnson River Road, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so, I have to note here, and I don't know if I have or not, but
Go ahead.
if the pass, we go the charter revision to newsletters. And we haven't made a decision as a option, but do those funds include funding for newsletters? That, you know, because we haven't done it, and we will be doing it with pass and approval of the charter revision. I'm just guessing, so I guess, are those the allocation of which you made for each? That makes
Yes.
sense.
The Chamber Association, and I'm kind of show you what it looks like. You've not seen it before. This is my estimate. So I haven't analyzed this yet, but I'm guessing that's probably to what we'll receive. This is the first allocation, the first trimester. So those funds can be used to support your newsletters, if you want to do flyers, you want to do pictures, your outreach, and that would be for your events, your meetings, having a neighborhood association. And that's maybe. Okay.
0.3% of your age. The whole life thing.
Those funds, the board decides. So the board decide, okay, we're doing newsletter. And that's why we're the thing would be the trimester. It just in some neighborhoods do this. If you decide your first time you do newsletter and then you also want to do a postcard and come in over balance, you come $3,000, that's okay. Because what I do is I charge it in the first and I actually adjust it for the second allocation. So there's a little bit of latitude with the funding that's there. But there is no latitude is in the third, because that ends on our fiscal year, and the fiscal year is over, the funds are gone. There's no back date. So, Jen, yes. Oh, muted. I'm sorry.
Here. Do you know how much Wicker is used? Because it's going to be different. We do have a newsletter out, and that's what I like to take consider.
Yeah. With communities, there has been there's a time where Wicker Council sent out a postcard, and Don probably remembers that. I think he had to be that every 2 months. Sent out a postcard every year, pretty consistently. And no use for an event because it's your own event, your own thing. But there was a time where there was a card coming out all, which was great. And then there were a couple of years where it was pretty quiet. There was maybe 1 or 2 postcards. So it's not real consistent, and that's okay. So for active status, we really want to see council goals. It's a council goal for the neighborhood association to send out 4 applications every year. Applications can be, postcard, newsletter, flyer, a door hanger, whatever it is, but 4 things, 2 of which are mailed to everybody in the neighborhood. And the reason we want those 2 to be mailed is 1, elections. You want everybody to come and participate in elections. Because Whitaker you have to be at a prior meeting before voting on an election. You want to make sure that you get that out in plenty of time so people understand what they need to do to participate. And then the other one would be for no, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
And the other postcard or the other publication would be promoting your event. whatever your events. So 2 should be mailed and 2 can be, people handing them out, putting flyers on doors or mailing them, or whatever works best. Posters.
Okay. So as I recall, I could be wrong in the answer. We lost a little bit of boundary last year, I believe. It was changed a little, so that, am I wrong about?
Not
There was a shift.
not for the neighborhood association, for the wards. The wards shifted a little bit, but not the neighborhood association boundaries.
Thank you. Like
Yeah.
that. That's good.
No,
I-
it's confusing because they don't line up with the wards.
Right.
So
And is inflation ever considered? I'm just curious.
no, that's a good question. And you're not the first person to ask that. So we've had, the 135,000 is what we've been given for the last, going on 10 years. So no, I wish it was, but that's what we get.
Okay. Okay, can you explain how the funding is dealt with literally?
Sure. No, that's a good question. So the board makes a decision to print a newsletter. The board gets to choose which printer they want to go to. Most neighborhood associations use QSL. They're local. They're quick, they're efficient. And the bonus with QSL is they will also post and mail your publication. Most other print shops can do the printing, but they have to ship it out to be mailed, essentially. So that it's a double charge and then the postage on top of that. So you lose a little bit of savings there. So you get to choose, because the city is not the publisher. We pay for it, but we are not the publisher. The neighborhood association is the publisher. The board picks their newsletter or postcard. They send it to the printer. The printer can bill me directly and I pay that. We've got our own postage account. It's our permit 377 that the neighborhoods can use. And Indisha gets printed on there and that gets billed automatically to our account through the post office. So that's kind of how the publications work. Now, I'll get to you, Claire, just a second. If you wanted to purchase, let's see, if you were holding your event and you wanted to purchase for your event, you needed to go to one of the rental places and rent a bunch of tables and chairs and maybe a porta potty, and you're going to use your $400 to do that. You could, there's a reimbursement form. You see down here, we've got the guidelines for use of funds and the publications guidelines. On that page, I should actually put that page on there. It's not on there. On that page where these documents are located, there's a reimbursement form. You can, as a board, once you decide what you're going to use your $400 for your event on, you can either pay for those in advance and then the city will reimburse you up to $400 for those charges. Or you could have, if you're renting from, the Bucks porta potty service, you could have them contact me and I can pay them directly. Active Bethel does regular translation services for their newsletters. They have the person who does their translation service just contact me directly and I pay for those directly. So it's whatever's easiest for you, as long as, and I can't, bold face and, shout this as loud as I can, kind of a thing, enough. Check before you purchase something, because not everything is eligible for reimbursement. So there's nothing worse than having a neighborhood board go out and do this really great thing and they spend some money and they come back to me and say, hey, we bought this cool thing, reimburse it. And I have to go, it's not eligible, I'm sorry. And they have to struggle to pass the hat or do whatever to pay for whatever it is they purchased. So when in doubt, ask in advance. And it's pretty clear. The policies are about as clear as we can make them, but there is still some, things that pop up that's like, yeah, okay, we can pay for that. So yes, Claire.
So I just wanted to say for folks that don't actually do have a mailer that I've been putting together regularly and that's been going out. And I will put meeting information and something like that. And unfortunately / fortunately, because our committees are so packed full with fun stuff, there's not a lot of pictures because it's so much good information on the inside. But so this is the mailers that we do have going out. I've tried to catch up to the quarterly mailer schedule that I heard was happening in the past, but that's what we have going on, and I'm always open to for content in there, space allowing.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, Jen.
Yeah, sorry, what is QSL?
QSL, I don't know what QSL stands for, actually. They're a local print shop.
Would it be like Instant Prints? That's who we go through.
They do, QSL owns one
We
of
go
those.
through QSL, Jen, for printing.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah,
Yeah.
QSL, and they own Instaprint or something like that. They own another place with a different name, but yeah. QSL, they do, I mean, they do a pretty good job, so.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I can't make a recommendation because that's not my role, but
Right.
I will tell you the other neighborhoods use them. Any other questions for what I've shared so far? Did I hit all the questions, Claire? Anybody?
I was just gonna ask if anybody else had any questions burning that they would like to ask, but going once. Oh, it looks like Jen's hand is up.
Yeah, Jen.
I got to get you while I can, Cindy. Can you talk about the rentals that are available? Like I learned about the owl, the summit.
Yes, thank you for asking. That's a great, yes. So our office does have some really cool tools available. So if you were holding your event and you needed a couple of canopies, hey, we've got 2 canopies. We've got 2 canopies. We've got some tables. We don't have any chairs. I'm kind of bummed about that. We've got a couple of water coolers, the big 5-gallon water coolers. We have, if pre-COVID, we used these a lot. I'm not sure what we'll do with them post-COVID. Hopefully we'll get to a post-COVID. But anyway, we have dishes, plates, cups, utensils. So you can make your event sustainable. It's not that you wouldn't be throwing things away. But we also have the compost bins. So we've got trash, compost, and recycled bins available. They're like a 20-gallon bag goes in them, which isn't, anyway, don't get me started on the plastic bags that we use for those, but anyway. So those are available to help support your events. We have a lot of tools, and like Jen said, we've got the owl available. So as more neighborhoods are moving into the hybrid meetings where they have, in-person and virtual attendees, the owl is the coolest thing ever. It actually looks like an owl when it's working, and it's it's about the size of a coffee pot, and it has little eyeballs in it that circle the room. And if Jen is speaking, it'll focus in on Jen, and Jen's face will pop up on the screen, and Jen can talk, and everybody in the room can see, and everybody online can see, and everybody gets to participate. It's just, I'm not doing it justice, am I, Jen? I'm sorry. It is a very cool piece of technology. So I'm thoroughly impressed with it. So
That
we have
sounds
2 of
super-
those. We can make
super
those
exciting.
available.
That sounds really exciting, Cindy. Would you be able to send I guess Delaney, the Whitaker Community Council email, a list of, or where we can find those rentable items, because that would be
Yeah.
very useful.
I will send the page, which has a list of everything that's on there, including the reservation form. So yes.
Excellent.
Thank
And we're at time for this item, unfortunately, but Cindy, if you would be willing to drop your email in the chat, we would greatly appreciate it for all of our questions that we have. And I just thank you so much for your time telling us all about how neighborhood funding works and boundaries and all of that other fun stuff. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
You bet. I'm going to put my name in the chat, and I'm going to mute myself.
And feel free to stick around too if you want to see the rest of it. But I also know it's like almost 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, so no hard feelings if you want to take off.
I'm gonna go ahead and take off. I've got an early morning tomorrow. So, but thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you. And Jen, give me a call if you have some more questions. I'm there for you. So I also put my phone number in there too. We're working a hybrid schedule at work. So I'm only in the office 3 days, but I access my phone 5 days a week. So it's not, give me a call if you have any questions or drop me a line. Thank you.
Thank you for all the hard work you do. Much appreciated.
Can I
Thank
say
you.
one
Thank
quick
you.
thing?
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Cindy, you are totally rocking the silver. I freaking love it.
Thank you.
I
I was wondering, I was like, he's not gonna recognize me. It's been a while.
I absolutely love silver. I will tell you a very quick story. My aunt had some silver hair. It looked just like that. I totally loved it. And her son, who decided he was going to be a hairdresser, tried to get her to tint it blonde. And I almost killed him because honestly, silver is angelic. It's wonderful. So good job. Lucky genes on your part.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so next up on the agenda, we do have a motion. However, I don't think that we have quorum here because I think we're at 6 or 7 members and full is 15. So do we need like majority or can someone remind me?
The majority. I think we need a majority for a board meeting.
Brad, you're the expert. Is it 7 for a quorum?
Well, we have 15
Cindy.
total. Bye, Cindy. We have 15 total on a ideal day when everybody shows up. However, today we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 board members, which is less than half of 15. So by my count, that is not a majority.
Wait, give me a moment. I'll look it up if you're in the current.
So how's everybody else handling this heat?
These popsicles.
Brad says we need 8.
Okay. Well, oh well, we'll come back to that one. Just so everyone knows, it was just to catch up on approving minutes because there's a wild year last year and lots of minutes that we're caught up on. And anyway, that will happen eventually, as all good things do. Moving on up to the website committee update. Oh, sorry, Jen, did you have a question?
It says a majority of inactive board members, no less than 3 shall constitute a quorum. This is for a board meeting, for transaction of business.
No
So-
less than 3, even though there's 15 members total?
We need 3 for a quorum when it comes to a board meeting. Different than when it comes to a general meeting.
Hey, I'm like the least expert here, so whatever you guys want to do.
I'm reading it from our current charter. The majority of active board members, no less than 3, shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. Meetings shall not be called in order unless a quorum is present. Woo, we blew that one. So we have a quorum. Is there
Okay,
anything to
do we want to, I mean, we can do this, I guess.
Yeah,
let's
we can
go-
still be informational.
Okay, well, I motion to approve all past minutes from last year until this year, until last meeting, which actually, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna look at the exact language that I sent to Delenia that she said, yes, say that. Sorry, 1 moment.
Well, if you count Delinia's vote because she sent it already,
Well,
It has
then
to
that would
be
make 8.
present. She would has to be present.
Ah, bummer.
okay, so I motion to batch approve all unapproved notes from last year up through our previous meeting, June 15th, 2022. Is there a second? Thea is a second. And if you were not on the board last year, feel free to abstain because if you weren't there at the meeting, I guess that, doesn't make sense to vote on that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there, but do I say all those in favor now?
Well, I think we need discussion, don't
There's
we?
a discussion, okay.
Yeah, because I only received from last, I think it was October, November, December, maybe it was August. And
There was
January-
absolutely a lapse in written notes, but I talked with Elenia and we, pretty much agreed that there were meeting recordings. So if you want to see,
Okay, I see where you're going. All right.
we're
Okay.
trying to get, long story short, we're trying to get us caught up from the circuit that was last year.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to catch up to modern day
Got it.
times here. So
That's a big difference. Thank you.
yeah, of course. So any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Derek, where are you? Oh,
Is Whitaker Community Council Delenia? Or oh, no, that's Anand. Hi, Anand. Okay, so that's here. Everyone keep your hands up. Sorry, because I'm also taking notes at the same time. So Thea seconded. And then, so I guess everyone, all right, all those opposed and abstaining.
Brad's abstaining.
Brad and Derek, was that an abstention as well from you? I didn't see a hand either way. And I can't hear you if you're talking right now, Derek. Okay, I'm gonna assume that's an abstention because you weren't on the board last year. Okay, so that was Does my vote count if I made the motion? I'm still learning the way these
Yes.
go. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes and 2 abstaining. Does that mean it passes?
Yes.
Okay.
Brava.
Well, that wasn't too painful, was it? Okay. Well, I suppose that brings us on to our website committee update. Saoirse is absent today. She is running the wonderful night market over there at the Farmers Market Pavilion, but Thea has graciously said that she would fill in for this update. So take it away, Thea.
And Marcus gets to jump in when he is available. Marcus, myself, and Saoirse met a while back. Saoirse did send out the entire board Discord. It is a way to communicate without using emails. I'm not sure how I feel about it personally, because I keep getting emails to read about Discord, so it's not deleting any of the stuff. And I think if that's something we're going to use, we're going to need more of the board members here to discuss it, and she's going to need to train us better on it. I did finally learn how to have it so it wouldn't overtake our computer, but Saoirse has done a great job of updating web pages. She's doing a new form for the businesses, so the business can send information directly through our website. They can send a photograph. So Derek, you could send information for Jerry and Waltz, and you can send a link to your website. You can put your name on there, your pictures. So she's got a new form. I think it's done. Marcus, do you know if it's done or not? I haven't checked the webpage in a while.
Last I saw it was done. I've seen a couple of businesses update correctly. So yeah, I believe it's good to go at this point.
All right. Is there anything else I'm forgetting, Marcus? The dogs are saying I am.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's the life out here. No, it was mostly about board communications and the ability to communicate more thoroughly. I've had good luck with Discord so far, but yeah, there's definitely some training involved, and maybe I can talk to Saoirse and we get a better typed out email, or maybe we can hold a quick tutorial at some point.
I would love a tutorial. I'm a bad millennial and I don't even understand Twitter. So I would love a walkthrough of this. I have not even downloaded it because it's just one more thing. So I would love a tutorial if possible.
So if somebody says they're a bad millennial, wouldn't that make them a good citizen?
I suppose so.
I
And I guess
like
that's why I'm here at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, right?
Exactly.
And we have somebody in the chat that says they've not been able to find the Whitaker Discord page. So,
It's never supposed to be up for the public. That was just for the WCC council.
correct.
That's a non in the chat saying that.
Yep.
Anon, come on.
No, I tried it twice. Saoirse sent me a link, but she sent it through my email, and apparently it's time sensitive, and I don't check my email that often, and so every time I would go to it, it was too late, and it wouldn't let me on. So I suggested to her that she text me and let me know that it was on my email, so I would go to my email in time. But so far, that hasn't happened.
And whoever, Thea, Marcus, I haven't been able to download it, even though she sent me the link, it wasn't successful. And
Okay, we'll let her know that too.
thank you.
I think she needs to train us.
And I have a Mac, and there's a difference between a Mac and a PC. So there, it's some help with. Also, could I make the suggestion for the committee that if you look at Jefferson West Neighbors website, it's brilliant. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, and I know she's still updating it, so I'll make a recommendation to that.
But that would be a great thing. I was like, I wanted to cry when I saw it.
So some of the difficulty there is they're just still working within the framework of the website that she took over from last year. And it takes a lot to completely redesign a website. All she's trying to do is make what we have more user-friendly.
So let me ask you this, would it be better to just get rid of everything that was done and let her and you guys take over and do your own website? I'm curious.
Thea, do you want to speak or do you want me to speak?
You can speak. We spent a lot of money on it, Jen, so
I know,
think
but
she
we
can
can't
make
get
it,
anything from it.
and I think she can make it work. But what do you think, Miss?
No, I totally agree. The time and effort from Saoirse and Thea and myself to try to redesign the website probably doesn't make sense. We're within a situation that can work. It's going to take some tweaking and whatever. It's never going to be everybody's dream, but it can be something that we can say, this works, this gets our message out, this allows people to connect to us. And I think at this point, that's what we're going to have.
So are you saying in the long run, we're better off staying with and working and tweaking the current website? That's really pathetic, in my opinion, and making it better.
Personally, yeah, I believe that, because you'd have to pay someone to redesign a website. You've already paid far too much for far too little.
Yes, we know, we're embarrassed, Kate. Thank you.
Yeah, Jen, we're going to move on from one, and we're going to make this website work. We're going to add more pages and more tabs so it's more user friendly.
Bravo for you all. Thank you.
I have a question about the website. Do we have someone to retake or to update the board information and headshots and such?
Saoirse was working on that. She was supposed to get new photos of people, but Derek keeps running. Joking, Derek. Yeah, she was supposed to be working on that.
I got my headshot done.
Eric's ahead of me.
All right. And you're on the committee.
Awesome. Mine from last time still works. My hair is a little bit different, but that's fine.
I have less hair, so it'll work.
Go ahead, Jen.
I thought that Emma was still supposed to take those. I'm confused about that. Did we pay her to do all this? Anyone?
She and Saoirse are working on that. Saoirse has taken over all the headshots and all of that. So whether Emma took them or not, I don't know. I'm just
see.
trying to fill in. I'm trying to pioneer Jen because Saoirse's not here. She did not get the agenda. She didn't know. I texted her tonight. She didn't know she was supposed to be here tonight. So
The agenda did go out to everybody, so maybe just that she didn't see the email.
yeah, she says she has 3 different emails that things come to, so they get lost. So
Ironically, I didn't get the email. Thea saved me. I knew there was supposed to be one. I thought it was at 7:30. So the agenda didn't go out correctly tonight.
Mm. Marcus, are you at bruns.marcus3@gmail.com?
Correct.
Then the email must be spam or something, because I'm looking through the invite list or the receipt list, but
It might be, but everything that comes out besides that has gotten to me, I believe.
strange. Maybe it didn't like that there was a Google Doc shared or something, but anyway.
No problem.
Happy you made it here. Okay, well, any other questions on this or any of the other information I should say on this website committee update?
not at this point. And Jen, I'll see if I can get Saoirse to reach out to you directly. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Excellent.
you ready for me? It's
You're up again
safety
next.
moment.
More,
It's-
up next,
okay.
Morthea.
All right. So I met with Chief Skinner this week. I am meeting with Claire Surratt on Saturday. I have talked to lots of business owners. The group that is living on the hill along the Chamber Street Bridge is about to be moved on the 26th of this month. They're going to start cleaning that area up. I have asked the city for a plan. Don't laugh, Brad and Anon. I have asked for a plan. What are you going to do? Because when they move off that hill, they're going to be at Derek's business. They're going to be in front of Brun's Red Apple. Right now, it's becoming a safety issue because they're actually digging tunnels into the Chamber Street Bridge. It can't be very safe for the bridge. I don't want to go over it in a vehicle right now. I've also contacted Union Pacific to let them know. And so supposedly the NSOs, which are neighborhood service officers, they are the ones that go around for camping and parking in cars. The HSOs are EPD officers who are housing service officers. They are also going around our neighborhood currently right now, giving out resources for possible places to stay. Both these groups are, and telling people, no, not right here. Here are possible resources for you. And that is what's happening in our neighborhood right now. Park Ambassadors has a beautiful, I might not have it available here. Sorry, my desk is a mess. They have a beautiful little business card with all the resources on it that I am sending to Saoirse to put on our website for places that people can get resources when needed, when someone comes across someone who's interested in resources. Park Ambassadors will probably be involved with this as well, because what's happening is when they move away, if they don't get to stay at Scoburg Gardens, they're going to come to the river, or they're going to go to Sladden Park, or they're going to be in front of businesses. And they're not going to choose to go to any slave sleep site, which there are. Friday, the site at River Road is opening for housing. And very soon, within weeks, the one over on Martin Luther King Boulevard, that safe sleep site should be opening. I don't have a date for you on that, because I also met with Peter Chavon from the city who runs those. And he asked, in the ideal world, what could we do? Because it is becoming an issue. I have someone camping out in front of my house, and they're throwing their urine bucket. They're in front of my neighbor's house, but they're throwing their 5-gallon urine bucket out into the street. So the whole street smells like urine right now. And it's not safe for their little kids, and it's gross, besides bringing other things along. So they're trying to figure out a way to approach this from a holistic point of getting everyone together. He has also been talking with Catholic Community Services because they're getting lots of phone calls. It's the Catholic workers, community services workers are feeding people WJ. And yes, we need food, but we've heard more and more from some of our social service entities that it's not the major problem right now. How is the major problem? Hence Anon and his group. Food is not a huge issue. So they're trying to figure out how to work with them. Delinia has reached out. She's trying to get people to, she's trying to get Black Thistle and CORE, Catholic community workers, to come to one of our meetings to talk to us to figure out how we can work together. Because what's happening, they're bringing to the neighborhood, and the residents and the businesses are having to deal with the side effects, which are people that are mentally unstable, they're drug addicted, they have alcohol issues, and they hang out, and then they're also getting preyed on. We have a gentleman in a black BMW that is going around trying to entice women from some of these camps into his car for prostitution. We have prostitution happening in Maury Jacobs Park again. We have needles happening in our park. I picked up 2 needles in my front yard yesterday. So things are ramping up. It's summertime. They always ramp up in the summer. Gober Gardens is getting, tonight, they have concerts every Wednesday night. Margaret, who couldn't be here tonight, she says hello, but she's working the fair. Worked really hard with Julie Bowman and Sue Barnhart. And there are concerts every Wednesday night through August, and chess club on Thursday nights, and Parks and Open Spaces coming in the morning. They're cleaning it up. They're taking all the trash out. They're cleaning the bathrooms. They're coming back in the evening before these events. They're trying to clean the bathrooms again. They're trying to get the park so people aren't living in Scoper Gardens, but they're having a real issue, and they're looking at the bathrooms. I reached out to neighbors to ask the neighbors what they think. They brought, the Parks and Open Space brought a possible suggestion. Deep breath, everybody, was just an idea. Black wrought iron fence that they have in the back of Scoper Gardens. They asked if neighbors would be interested. They're doing it in small neighborhood parks, I guess, maybe in Portland, I don't know where they put a wrought iron fence with gates in the front of the park. They close it at 11 o'clock when the park closes. They open it up at 6 in the morning because they're trying to cut down on the fecal matter and the number of people camping in the park. So I have asked a couple of the neighbors to talk to each other and see what they would like to see there. And then we are on the agenda with Emily Proudfoot to start conversations this fall for renovation of Scoburg Gardens, with talks of one of the fancy Portland Loo style bathrooms in Scoburg Gardens. So, and then WJ is being put out for bid right now to start cleanup. They have to remove the sod. They have to remove the soil. They have to replace the soil. The work till springtime. They're just putting the work orders out. I did remind Craig Carnegie that it was brought up 4 years ago, I believe, that they want, it was a huge request for concrete pathways to go west through WJ, because right now all the sidewalks only go south. So if you're coming off of 4th Street and you're trying to get over to the east side of Washington, you have to go all the way down to 5th or up to 1st, because it's not easy, especially if you're in a wind. So Craig said he would make a note of that. I think that's all I have right now, but I'm not sure, to be honest, because I've been talking to those people. Claire was first and then Anand.
Actually,
And then
Jen,
Oh, Jen was first.
Jen was
Okay.
first. Yeah. And then Anand, you can go before me.
I don't know if I hear a distinction. First of all, thank you for all your work. But between anything being definitely done, other than we're still moving things around, people are going back and forth. And I'm talking, the cappers. And so I didn't hear that distinction in your discussion clearly. So maybe I missed something.
But they're still moving them, Jen, and it's still a resident. It's still a resident's responsibility to call in or a business's responsibility to call in. So if you have someone living in front of your house that is not being a good neighbor, then it is your responsibility to go online and report it or call the non-emergency number.
That's
There
not
isn't
what
a,
I'm talking about. I'm talking about people camping again in the outskirts of WJ, and here and there, they just keep moving around back and forth. So that hasn't really been what I've heard attended to. There's no, other than offering them options that they may not want to take for various reasons.
so correct. That's all they're doing is they're moving them around. There is no solution, Jen. So what I suggested to them was that they come up with a team. Right now, there are 3 NSOs. Those are neighborhood service officers for the entire city of Eugene. We were promised when they closed WJ that we would have set personnel in our neighborhood. They didn't give it to us. And I call the city 2 to 3 times a week, and I email them 2 to 3 times a week. I've also met with the assistant city manager. Claire can tell you how many hours I put in calling these people. It is literally a game of move them, and they only move them if there's a complaint. So if there is no one coming, they don't get moved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it doesn't make sense, but thank you. You answered the question.
Yeah.
Also, I'm personally for a sealed park at Scobert. And
Yeah.
I know other parks have been successful with doing it that way because it belongs to the neighborhood.
Yeah. So that's why I've put it out to the neighbors.
Thank you.
Anand, go ahead.
So you're talking about the possibility of an east-west through Jefferson Washington Park. I was listening to NPR, and apparently there is a national movement afoot and funding behind it to reconnect neighborhoods that were separated by highways, like, oh, I don't know, the one that goes over Washington Jefferson Park. Exactly. So I don't know exactly where it is, but apparently there's some money out there to be able to do that kind of. Just thought you'd like to know.
I'll let them know. I also did bring up the idea, Doriander, for the Debcat people. We were supposed to be able to have murals on all those overpass pillars. And so I brought that up as well.
Anand, I'm going to send you an article that I have from my transportation side of my life that talks about that, reconnecting what freeways, the title is Reconnecting What Freeways Severed, Addressing the Historical Toll on Communities Split by Highways. So it's exactly what you're talking about. Also, I'd be interested if you find or remember the name of the thing you're talking about, then I would love to hear more about that. My transportation anti-highways ears perked up.
Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll let you know.
And so I suppose I'm up next. Thea, I was wondering, does Chief Skinner and EPD have any kind of idea? I'm sure it's an evolving idea of why people are continuously not going to safe sleep sites. Are they being pulled? Like, what's like the predominant reasons why they're saying no to moving?
He does not have an answer to that. I'll see if Doug does, who is in charge of that. But the word that I've gotten from some of the other individuals that are dealing with this is they don't want to go. They don't want to be in a place with fences. They don't want to be in a place with walls. They just want to be able to lay their head wherever they want. And they don't want to be told that they have to go to a particular spot. And
I'd be interested if there is some kind of way where we can encourage EPD to do in-depth community friendly polling of folks, and just, you know, because I'm always trying to figure out why, like what's the reasoning why, and then maybe that will help inform some kind of less band-aid fix. I mean, like Jen was saying, if we keep moving people around, you know, we saw what happened when Washington Jefferson was cleared out, that, you know, people moved out over into in front of Derek's business or down by the river or wherever else, you know. So I'm just constantly trying to understand more, and I think that if there is more to understand, you know.
So I can answer that a couple ways. One is the purpose of moving is if you allow someone to stay in one spot too long, their stuff spreads out. It becomes unsanitary because often a lot of the people that are mentally unstable are collectors. Part of their, and I shouldn't say a lot, some of the people, sorry about that, Anon, I want to correct myself there. Some of the people are collectors, okay? And so if you're allowed to stay in one spot, pretty soon you're collecting all these things and you're spreading farther and farther beyond your shopping cart or your tent or whatever. And so if they're not being allowed to establish tents, but in reality, it's not EPD's job, okay? This all goes back to, it's the county's job to house people. The city has stepped in to try and help. And so the city is the one that's collecting the data on it. So that's Peter Siobhan and Reagan Watches that are collecting the data. And the cities and Brooke Freed, the unhoused people. So EPD only responds if it's a criminal issue or they're housing service officers, which there are 2 of. So basically we have 5 people for the entire city of Eugene to deal with housing issues. And then we have 5 park ambassadors, and I've forgotten how many thousands of miles of park we have. So they're trying to hire more people, but nobody wants to work.
I think
Stephen was up next.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh. Who's next?
I'll just add one small comment. I think whenever we do get around to having Black Thistle or similar organizations as guests, they might be able to give us more insight since they're working directly with some of the populations in a different capacity than the city does. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a guy in our neighborhood who has pretty self-sufficient. I did a post on it. He's being told there's no vacancies, there's no space in the safe sleep sites, that he's on a waiting list. Is that bullshit?
The one at Garfield, I believe, is full, but I will double check for you, Stephen, and then I'll get you an email, okay? If there
Thank
is.
you. Yeah, he
Okay.
was at the back of somebody's house, but that person decided to build an extension on the house, so he had to move. He's really clean, really self-contained. He doesn't have a lot of stuff. He's very capable, and just wish we could find a way to get him through the bureaucracy.
Right, and we might be able to get somebody to put him on their property for a little bit.
That would also work too. He's pretty capable as a maintenance guy too.
Go ahead, Marcus. I believe you're up next. Marcus, if you're speaking, you're muted right now.
Sorry, my whole point was everybody asks the police to do more. I've talked to so many of the police officers, and they're so many officers understaffed that to ask them to do more than respond to major crimes and petty crimes is too much. So I guess we have to find a way to work without the police in the little things, if that makes any sense.
Jen, go ahead.
Yes, I don't know how to put this, but I think we could either table it, or I'd like to see it on the agenda that somebody from the WCC go, I don't know if it's an ad hoc or a committee, to deal with Lane County on its own, because we're not dealing with that enough with the abilities that Lane County has to offer us and that the city doesn't have to offer us. So we need to address that, I think. We keep
so-
overlooking it.
So Jen, we did invite Lane County. We had a meeting at the Mission. I don't remember, Doriandra, if that was June or May, but I think it was June, where we had Lane County, we had all of the city officials, we had EPD, and Lane County came and they were very gracious, but they pretty much just told us thing they did but housing. So Lori Traeger is our commissioner, but they told us all about WIC and they told us the other things they were doing. And hopefully, you know, trying to talk to them, Jen, but I'm one person.
I think we need to get somebody, somebody with some teeth in them to go out there and deal with them. Because for years, I can't remember how long it's been, we have not really developed a direct line with Lane County. And for that matter, with the city as well. We're not going to the meetings anymore like we used to before COVID. So, and that's something that's worth a consideration and should be really put upon just you, Thea. So I don't know if that, can I table that, or how do I can ask to have that put on the agenda for
What do you, so you're, Jen, if I'm understanding correctly, you'd like WCC to develop a main line with Lane County.
correct.
Thea, do we have like a point person at least in Lane County, like any kind of?
I go directly to Lori Traeger, County Commissioner, just like I go to Claire Surratt for other things.
And was Lori not answering questions? Is that what you were saying?
She answered questions. I irritated her because I thanked the city for what they're doing and asked what they were doing. And so she says they are doing, Anon can speak more to that for housing. Do you have any clue what they're doing, Anon? Because I'm still waiting to see what they're doing for housing.
No, not really. They're not doing diddly squat. Let's be honest. It comes down to this. The people who are in power do not want to raise taxes on the people who have the money. They don't want to do it because they're afraid they won't get reelected. That's what it really comes down to. And unless there's money, there's no way to build the housing we need. So that's it. Until you get people, or perhaps we put a bill on the ballot, actually makes some money that can be used to build housing. Until that happens, nothing's going to happen.
And then the question will always remain, how do you deal with the person who doesn't want to go indoors?
That's a small percentage of the total population of unhoused people. Yes, it's definitely an issue. And it does actually go back to what we were asking more about, why people don't want to go in. And that's true. There's a certain percentage. There's a certain percentage, it's small, but there's a certain percentage who are using illegal substances. And one of the reasons they're using illegal substances is because if they have mental health issues and they aren't the prescriptions they actually require, then what they're doing is having to figure out to live with their condition with something else. But that's a very tiny percentage of the population. It is, however, the percentage of the population that's making a lot of noise. And so it's the squeaky wheel that you see. It is, in terms of the unhoused population, very small. If you really want to deal with the unhoused population, you build housing. If you want to deal with the other population, what you need is people who are trained to help those sort of people, get to know them, build their trust. That's how we do it over at Occupy Medical. Don't come in and deal with anybody until they trust you. First, they have to trust you. And then they'll believe you, and then they'll try something. You can't just have somebody tell you to move on. That isn't going to work.
So my request of the city is to build a team that does exactly that, Anon.
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
takes their park ambassadors, their NSOs, and their HSOs, because they wanted, I told you I was asked that question, what would I do in my world?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
I would have a team that comes out that is for neighborhoods, for the
Sure.
Whitaker neighborhood.
Yeah.
If we don't have enough employees, we share with West Jefferson West Side because we bounce back between those two neighborhoods.
Yeah, what were those acronyms? NSOs?
NSO is Neighborhood Service Officer, and they handle parking issues. HSO are Housing Service Officers, those are through EPD. And then Park Ambassadors are through Parks and Open Space. And that's the, so I would have a team that is in the neighborhood, and I'm still on Chief Skinner, that we need our bike patrols in our neighborhood so that they can know the Annies and the Charles and the young lady that we all see that goes up and down our street for the last 5 years, normally is in black, but for the first summer ever has a dress on. You know, she's not roasting this year, but
Good.
she's been on our street for over 5 years now. But she needs to self-medicate because her other meds aren't there. And she said hello for the first time in 5 years. So that's what I've suggested that they do. I don't know whether they'll do it. We'll see, but they are working on the resource center. They are trying to hire someone that was supposed to go in by WJ. They don't have anybody to run it yet. So, and that is not going to be a place where people can come for resources. It's going to be a place for all the resources in Eugene that we have. They could all be under one roof so that they can actually, so Whitebird, Occupy, Black Thistle, Shelter Care, the Mission can all talk to each other and say, oh, this is what I'm doing. And I've seen Thea on this corner, and this corner. How can I? And as I've shared, you can hand out 200 cards, and maybe on the 201st time, they'll accept your help. Maybe, but not. But at some point, we also need to tell the people that are preying on them, not this corner, not in front of this business. You got to move on. And if you get asked too many times, you eventually move on. So it's not a pretty picture, guys.
I have Jen and then Marcus in the queue.
So I accidentally called somebody at Lane County who we ended up talking, and her name is Maya, and I don't remember her last name. But she did mention that there will be funds and they're going to develop housing for the mentally ill. Now, I didn't get very specific because it was an accidental call, but that is just something that stayed in my head that is coming maybe like in 2024. It's going to take a while to build. 25. And so that's something that's there. And I'd be willing to call her again. I can find her number and ask her, because we text as well. See if I can wiggle in, even though I don't need another project, but I don't mind trying if that's acceptable with anybody, with everybody. So, you know, because Lane County has been giving us the runaround since, I'm going to say 22 years now, because I've been saying 21 for too long. So
They did share that at the Mission, Jen. Go for it, call her. They did share that, but it's 2025. They have 3 more studies they want to do before they do it.
Aye.
Sorry, I'm a little disgusted.
Yeah.
Marcus, go ahead.
So my big thing here is we're complaining about all these things that are mental health and the small percentage, but the small percentage are what is creating the most noise, like has been pointed out. And there are no services for that. There are no anything. But those are the services that need to be addressed the most. All these housing bills that we say, oh, we have money for this, money for that. There isn't any money for any of the unhoused that don't want to come into a roof. So I guess for non, is there a future for institutionalization or anything to pull that community in, or we just have to live with that?
So by law, the only way a person can be forced to be institutionalized is if they are in imminent risk of harming themselves or others. That's the law. So I didn't write it, and they can
I
be
know.
they can be institutionalized for 180 days. After that, they have to go before a judge and determine whether or not that is to continue or not. So what people what ends up happening is just it's really variable because people are, so some
No, I
people
get it.
some people have sufficient, even if they have some mental health issues, some people are in sufficiently good shape that they can kind of keep it under control. Some people, if they had housing and they had a way to get help on a regular basis. We were talking about this having to do with the housing grant. Laurel Hill has a program, and I've seen first over in South Lane Mental Health, where I was actually doing classes sometime. But they actually have people come into people's houses and help them take their meds every day, right? It's really important for some people. Again, this is a very individual sort of thing. But if some people, if they just had stable housing and some way to make sure they had their meds on a regular basis, they'd be okay, right? But again, the housing, if there's no housing, there's no stable place to make sure they get their meds. It just isn't going to happen. But
I guess my beyond that is people that are taking their meds on a regular basis.
Sure.
They get to a point where they say, I'm good, I no longer need my meds. And that, I mean, we've employed a number of people that got to that point, and we had to no longer employ them because they weren't on their meds.
That's not unusual. That does happen, but I got to tell you, it's not just with mental health. People on diabetic medications, people on blood pressure medications, people who are on Lipitor and stuff like that. They see their numbers drop. They see, oh, look, I'm good now. I don't need to take it anymore. Yeah, no. So it's not unique to people with mental health issues. But you're right. There are some people, and I think part of that is it's two things. One is they're not really trusting the people they're talking to enough. Okay, if you really trusted your health professional or people that you're with or whatever, and they're telling you really got, I know you're feeling better now, but if you stop taking the meds, you're not gonna. If you trusted them, you'd believe them, and they don't. And that's a relationship issue. And it's,
but how do you build that relationship with when you're dealing with a new nurse practitioner every 6 months?
That is absolutely the case. Yeah. So the bigger issue is our society in general does not deal well with mental health issues. It just does.
Sure, totally agree.
We're the society where everybody's supposed to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, even though nobody has any feet, right? So how are you supposed to do that? So this culture, this is what's the solution? Get a gun, right? That's the solution. Get a gun, and all your problems will be solved.
Get a gun, but the solution has to be that at some point you need to stop looking for what my problem is and start looking for how do I move forward from here.
Well, for those people who can, that's great.
No, but that's like, even for the mental health, if they can't do it on their own, how do we move forward?
Exactly.
From here, they need to be institutionalized until they can, or they need to be put in a halfway situation until they can.
That's why Thea is proposing, and I absolutely agree with her, that what you need to do is have people in the community who can go out there and develop relationships with people. I mean, that's
city is out of money. The police are overstretched. At some point, we're being overloaded by communities outside of Oregon.
Yeah, no, that's not true.
That is true.
That's not true.
We are getting many people to us from.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have you take this debate off the camera because we've got.
That's fair.
We only have so many minutes for tonight.
You're fine.
But is part of what the CSI money is going to need to be used for, because businesses are being taxed for the crime safety initiative, which none of us knew what that was for, other than a business owner or an employee possibly. And
Yep.
so it looks like they could use some of that money to help fund this, help a program that will tell people, not here, but you can go here. Not here, but you can go here. And we're always going to have people that don't want to go inside. We're always going to have people that prey on each other. Look at the history of our country. I mean, and we live with a railroad going through the center of our town. And I will tell you that I am talking to some of our local people that are going out there, and one of the things that they're seeing in the people that are not from this area is the people that are coming into the area are carrying weapons now. They're carrying baseball bats, they're carrying machetes, and that is how they know right away whether someone's a local or whether they've come in from another area, because they've heard we have services. And I won't rat out who I've talked
I would
to.
suggest maybe not demonizing they, like, I feel
No,
like we
No,
we
I'm
wanna-
not saying demonizing anyone. I'm talking about unhoused people that are preying on other unhoused people. So our young lady that we see all the time, Claire, that sometimes she gets chased by someone else who's living on the street. So maybe my words aren't appropriate and I apologize. But I don't know give me a better adjective, Claire, help me out.
I just always try to move away from referring to a general population as like they, and they're bringing weapons and they're doing this, because like I feel like it brings us farther away from like the solutions part of thing. Like we know
Right.
there's a problem, you know?
So
Um,
yeah, and how are we going to get to it? Because it's bad right now for our unhoused.
people are
Yeah,
suffering.
yeah.
Yeah, it's bad for our unhoused, it's bad for our businesses, it's bad
Yep.
for our residents right now.
I mean, for
On a
me,
positive note, we need Brad and Claire for the parks. And in October, there is a gentleman that wants to, and it's for unhoused and for food, wants to have a zombie parade through Whitaker. And they need permits. So I want to turn that over to Brad, Claire, and Andrew.
I mean,
It's transportation. They need a parade permit.
I don't know anything about parades. That's not really transportation. I mean, I
It's
guess
not?
maybe by stretch, but I don't know. I don't have experience with parades. So it's a fundraiser.
It's to raise money and food.
I thought food wasn't the necessity. I thought housing was the necessity.
Housing is a necessity. That's
I
what
said,
this
well, I
person wants.
suggest if you want to give me the contact information for that person, I'd be happy to point them in the right direction for what to
Okay.
raise money for, because it sounds like we don't need money for food. We need money for housing.
We do need
Okay.
money for housing.
Go ahead and pass along my email.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Any more comments on that before we move on? Great. So the next topic was supposed to be led by Dan Schmid. He is not here tonight. It was going to be on the community center displacement of WCC Community Center there at the Head Start up the street from me, but in the Whitaker. And I suppose we skip that item unless anybody else has updates that they would like to share to that effect. Nope. Okay, so last item, future topics. Does anyone have any suggestions for future topics they would like me to record?
Actually, if you've got just a moment, let's see, how much time do we have left?
20 minutes.
There's a couple of things, and it's up to you whether you want to hear about it. But Doriandra had a short slide presentation that she could give about how to use the housing grant. So that's one thing. And the other thing was there is a letter that the Public Health and Safety Committee was going to send to El Rapa that Stephen had written, and he might want to say something about that. But if you don't have time, that's fine.
I think we have time. That was the last topic, so we still got. Maybe I'll take Jen's question really quick, and then
Oh my God, I forgot. Okay, I got distracted. Okay. Oh, it has something to do with, I'd like to get some feedback on what our attorney has said on different subjects that we have questioned about. And I would say for me, it's like what was the result of the charter revision. And there are other things that Cordelia Daniels was looking into for us, but we haven't heard any feedback. And I'd like to get that addressed.
if you can word your question in a more succinct way, and perhaps it might be tabled for next time. It sounds like a big conversation. If you can have like bullet points or 1, 2, 3, what you want the board to answer, I think that might be most helpful.
Oh my goodness, help me out there, you guys, because I don't know all the I don't know the list. I thought Gail was in charge of that. So I don't have that list of things that were supposed to be addressed to the lawyer. So I need a little bit of support here. I'd like to get feedback from our attorney, Cordelia Daniels, on questions that were provided by the WCC.
That sounds like something that Delinia should be helping you out with, because I feel like Cordelia and Delinia have been talking to each other, but.
Okay, so I can't table it.
So what was that?
I can't table it for.
Oh, I can add that to future topics. So you were asking me to add that to future topics, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will add that to future topics.
Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, Jen, what would be most helpful for me is if you can send me an email with exactly what you want me to add to future topics, because I feel like sometimes I get it wrong. So if you want to just send me exactly what you want, I'll copy and paste it.
Thank you.
Of course. And now Doriandra, did you had a housing grant presentation?
Sure. Let's see, let me share the screen. Okay. So, can everybody see that?
Yay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, we've got $235,000 left in the OHA grant, which is the one that I've been working out of that manages the COVID vaccinations that we've done, the clinics, the community engagement, public health campaigns and such. And so this is a specialized section of that. And after working through the different parts of it, this would be my proposal for it. To really establish a partnership with Whitebird, Laurel Hill, which is the group Anon mentioned earlier, Oregon Center for Law. And you'll see kind of as we go through why some of these are relative. But essentially after that June meeting where we met with the Eugene Mission and all the city folks that they had talked to, it really became apparent that we need a database of sorts that could track resources in the Whitaker, which then can be shared with reciprocity through some of the larger agencies. And in doing so, perhaps make that bridge that we really need to get to Lane County to really amplify the need for the services. So another part of that would be to create another social media and advertising platform that really gets the word out and helps folks understand what we can do with this money. Another way would be to get these sign-up forms sorted that allow folks to really dial in exactly what they are experiencing and better help us learn where we can allocate resources. Also, I'd like to, focus on providing a real systematic casework management per family as we go from inception of their issues through potential and hopeful housing. So another thing that's really important that we can do with this money is to reduce the housing barriers that folks happen to come across. And, that comes through various things of not having enough money or having loss of ID. So working with our partners over at Eugene Mission or doing a mobile kind of outreach, we can get some of those bridges crossed with people. Another aspect is to provide help in the vast collection. Sometimes it takes to get into a place, that it's incredible challenging to get first and last, second security, all that. So that would be a high goal to reach for people. And also a large part of this would be to work with landlords to create incentivizing aspects that would, again, kind of face some of those barriers that people have in terms of criminal backgrounds or poor history. So that money we'd be able to offer higher bonuses or bigger security deposits to kind of alleviate concerns of landlords. And then some of these smaller aspects, which are part of the whole spectrum, moving, payment of storage, cleaning, basic home furnishing. So going through all those aspects, and then also taking into mind, obviously, the elements of grant guidelines that the WCC and the Public Health and Safety Committee would want to implement as well. So my plan would be to come in at my current program manager salary, but be coming in at half of the normal hours I do. And as Thea pointed out, these 20 hours will probably go higher, but I would just assume those as volunteer hours. And I'd be able to start these after we finish the CDC grant, which I'm currently wrapping up right now. So that's a little overview, and I hope that helps.
Thank you, Doriandra. Anand, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that this is increasingly important. Not only do we have a large population of people who are currently unhoused, but especially because of COVID and all the economic turmoil from that, we have an awful lot of people who could very easily become unhoused because of their inability to pay the current rents, which keep going higher. So this sort of program is increasingly important. That's all I have to say.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Doriandra. And Anand, did you see that there's one more thing you had to share?
If Stephen is interested, he could say something about the letter that is going to go to El Rapa.
Can I ask a question to Doriandra, please? Or not? So Doriandra, I think the city was going to pass something so that it was only $10 per, I think that people have to pay $25 or something to get a credit check. Does that include that money in this plan at all? Or is there any kind of connection? I just can't believe that how much money goes out to just getting a credit check for people who want to rent.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jen. And it's possible to add interesting kind of like points like that into this program when we press forward. It just has to clear approval from OHA, which is the grantor. But they're very amenable to adding on new services. However, that said, that really seems like a specific subset of financial aid that may be best suited by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, Anand and I attended a meeting last night, put on by put on by Beyond Toxics, about the Seneca plant wanting to increase emissions. Does anybody need an explanation of what the Seneca plant is? Raise your hand if you need an explanation. Okay, up Highway 99, there's an area which includes a plant that a sawmill, and there's a cogeneration facility. The cogeneration facility burns wood product waste and turns that into steam. The steam is used to heat kilns where they're used for drying wood, drying timber. And after they've used the heat in the steam for drying for the kilns, it's used to generate electricity, some of which is sold back to EWEB, or sold to EWEB. Seneca was recently purchased by Sierra Pacific. It's one of the biggest landowning companies in the country, and they own a lot of forests in the Northwest. And they want to maximize their return on their by buying the company. And so they are doing a request to increase the amount of emissions of pollution they can pump into the atmosphere from the plants so they can increase productivity, increase production, and make more money from the plant. Beyond Toxics had a bunch of talking points, and Anand and I had a couple of extra talking points that we wanted to put together with the Beyond Toxics talking points in the form of questions into a one-page letter that we're sending to LRAPA before, as part of the public comment period. And they're questions that we have for our neighborhood based on the potential impact of those increased emissions in the context of climate change, in the context of increased forest fires and everything else that's affecting the atmosphere. We have spoken with Delenia, and we've come up with the idea of Anand signing the comment letter, since it only consists of questions, to use the oomph of his community health nurse title to inject the health issue into this discussion. And Doriandra is helping put the letter onto the letterhead that I can take responsibility for delivering it. Health and Safety Committee had a number of suggestions for spiffing up the letter, but at this point it's just informational. Anybody have any questions about the Seneca plant? You're muted, Brad.
I was waiting for you to say it was okay.
Flying
Did
for
anyone
Cahuna. Flying for Cahuna.
happen to bring up the history of the Seneca plant that initially got a permit from El Rapa to pollute our air up to a certain level, and they almost immediately in the first few years grossly violated that permit? And El Rapa's response was to just raise the level of emissions they could do. There was a public uproar about it, but they just like, no, we're not going to tell anyone. And the few people who found out about it screamed bloody murder. But El Rapa just said, no, we're good. We set the emissions, and then they violated it, and we just raised the emissions. It's got a bad history.
That was addressed by the Beyond Toxics presentation, not the history itself, but the current rules that allow that kind of thing to happen. And there's currently a rulemaking process going on in the state that governs that particular way of finagling limits. And one of our questions is why is El Rapa considering a permit that would allow higher plant site emission limits, which are what you're referring to, the PSELs, which is the kind of wiggle room at the top of their limits, but the wiggle room is quite large relative to the emissions. While new DEQ rulemaking on air toxics is in process. So yeah, it's definitely an issue that was addressed, how the agency that enforces this has a structure that allows way too much flexibility for the polluter to exceed the approved limits. That was a good question. We incorporate it into our questions.
Yeah, Brad, if you've got anything specific you could give us, it wouldn't be a bad idea.
All I've got is a little bit on how those particulates cause IQ damage in children at the level of eating lead paint chips.
That's right.
Kind of something.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, see, here's the thing is these proposals don't have anything, have nothing health related in them.
Yeah.
Not a thing. Yeah, I know, exactly. So my question was, how is this going to affect the morbidity and mortality of people downwind of the plants? Right, that's one of our questions.
That's our first question. That's
our first question.
The most important one. How will the proposed increase in air pollution affect morbidity and mortality in neighborhoods like ours, downwind of the two Seneca facilities? I suspect I'll probably be using my nebulizer more frequently.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
I have COPD, so that kind of is an issue for me.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's going on. Just thought everybody'd like to know.
Just to let you know, yeah, we'll let you know, we'll keep you informed of how that permit ends up.
Jen, go ahead. And just a time check, it is 8:57 p.m.
Yeah, be really quick. So Stephen, is there a time frame involved here?
Yeah, the deadline for the comment is next Wednesday, and Dori Andrews has a copy of the final draft of the letter. I'm gonna handle the delivery to El Rapa with the copies to Beyond Toxics, and I will provide copies of the letter to the board too.
And when do they decide that they're going to do what I'm doing? It sounds like anyway.
I'm not sure. I can't remember what the deadline was. Maybe Anand can indicate when they were coming. What was their timeline after?
Don't remember offhand. I'll go back and see if I can figure it out, but it's not immediate. It's going to be a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And as Stephen pointed out at the previous meeting, a lot of times what these are is you want to be able to set these questions up so that if there's a lawsuit later and they didn't get answered, that's part of the lawsuit. So
or even if they did get answered,
or even if they did,
it puts them into the record, the administrative record, so that if Beyond Toxics or somebody like that has an attorney and they're going to challenge it, then they've got standing on those particular issues.
Well, we're all counting on you, Stephen.
Oh, just don't breathe.
Thea, go ahead. And then if there's nothing else, let's wrap it
I
up.
want to congratulate Claire for taking notes and running the meeting. And it's your very first ever, Brad. So Claire, you are awesome. And I do want to thank you publicly to remind me to use really clear language. I was trying to get in there fast. And so we just have to work together to get this stuff figured out. So thank you, Claire. Awesome job.
Thank you.
You were good, girl.
All right. You crazy kids, go have a good Wednesday night.
Bye.
I don't know, meeting adjourned. I don't know how to end these things. Thank you so much.
Bye, Ollie.
Whoever has the end recording button, go ahead and click that. And thank you so much. Have a good night.